Chapter 4. So there I was, ready to board the plane to Shanghai, a bundle of nerves. Approaching the airport bar, I perused the selection of alcoholic drinks on display. I'm no connoisseur, but I know what I like. And what I like is beer. So I ordered a couple of pints and sat at the counter, sipping the first one while I waited for the second. Passengers were milling about, checking their phones and watches, making final calls to loved ones. I couldn't help feeling a bit envious of those people who seemed so at ease, as if they did this kind of thing all the time. To calm my nerves, I finished my second beer and signalled for another. The bartender nodded and poured me a fresh pint. I took a big swig and felt the liquid courage coursing through my veins. Then I remembered the sleeping pill I had packed in my carry-on bag. I searched through the bag until I found it and swallowed it down with a gulp of beer. I knew I needed to rest if I wanted to tackle this new adventure with a clear head. As the minutes ticked by, I felt my eyelids growing heavy. The beer and the pill were doing their job, lulling me into a sense of calm. As soon as I sat down in my seat on the plane, exchanging a brief greeting with the passenger next to me, I fell asleep like a rock. I didn't even feel the plane leave the ground. I slept through the entire flight. To tell the truth, I woke up when the plane touched down, but thinking that maybe there was a problem and we had returned to the departure airport, I said to myself, "Whatever, I'm going back to sleep." Then the flight attendant came over. "Sir, we've landed in Shanghai. The plane is empty and we need to prepare it for the next flight. You must exit the plane immediately." I grabbed my luggage and stumbled off the plane. As I made my way through the airport, still feeling the effects of the drinks and the sleeping pill, I realized that I didn't know where to go next. I examined the signs, but everything was in Chinese characters, and I couldn't understand anything. I noticed a woman in uniform and approached her, rubbing my tired eyes. "Excuse me," I said, trying not to let my sleepy voice show. "Can you tell me where the passport control is?" She looked at me with an indecipherable expression and then said something in Chinese. I looked at her, completely lost. "Sorry, I don't speak Chinese," I said, hoping she would switch to English. She frowned and repeated herself, only slower and louder, as if that would make a difference. I shook my head, feeling like an idiot. Just then, another airport employee passed by and the woman stopped him. They began speaking in rapid-fire Chinese, and I stood there feeling increasingly disoriented. Finally, the man turned to me and gestured in a vague direction. "Passport, that way," he said in halting English. I thanked them and walked away, still feeling disoriented. As soon as I stepped outside the airport, I was hit by a wall of noise and chaos. It was as if someone had turned up the volume and brought the madness to the max. There were people everywhere, rushing as if there was no tomorrow. It seemed like everyone in Shanghai had decided to take a walk to the airport at exactly the same time. I mean, sure, London had its fair share of madness, but this was something else. The whole place vibrated with energy, and I was just a tiny dot in the middle of it all. I tried to keep calm and take it all in stride, but I couldn't help feeling a little overwhelmed. It was like being in the middle of a giant pinball machine, with people bouncing around left and right. At one point, I stopped a random passerby and asked for directions to the taxi stand. The guy looked at me like I was a complete idiot and rattled off a string of Chinese words. I stood there nodding my head and hoping he wouldn't realize I had no idea what he was saying. Like that scene in Lost in Translation, except I wasn't a famous actor and there was no Bill Murray to save me. In the end, I decided to give up and figure it out myself. I mean, how hard could it be to find a taxi at the airport, right? Well, let's just say I took the scenic route. It was crazy, and at that moment I realized that this adventure would be one of the most memorable of my life.